One of the guys we were able to hear from yesterday was Terrace Marshall. And Marshall's role obviously has changed a little bit on this team because Jamar Chase has opted out. Marshall becomes the number one receiver for LSU. And Jacob, I don't know if you felt this way through the first maybe two games of last season, maybe even into the third. The Terrace Marshall was really the number one guy at the beginning. It seemed like the chemistry was there. I want to say he had 6 touchdowns in the first 2.5 games or something like that. And then Chase broke out at Vanderbilt, but and Marshall got hurt. Yep. But up until that point, I almost felt like if you'd asked me after the Texas game, who's the number one receiver on the team, I might have told you Terrace Marshall. It would have been a close call because all three of them were excelling at that time. All three of them had over 100 yards in that Texas game. But I might have said after 2 games, I might have said Marshall. He talked yesterday about replacing Jamar Chase.
For me personally, it wasn't no mental shift. I mean, I've always been locked in even before he left. I mean, that's just the culture around here. We're always locked in, ready to go. So, I mean, I'm ready to take on whatever responsibility I got to take on, and I'm prepared.
Last year, and I heard this from his mouth, Joe Burrow was talking about the trust that he had in Terrace Marshall. We were having a conversation. That was the guy he trusted the most, especially like you mentioned, at the beginning of the season. Mm-hmm. He said, I know in the red area, he is going to read the coverage. He's going to run the route it's supposed to, because routes obviously change in the red area. Everything's condensed. He said, I know he's going to be where he is supposed to be. And there was a trust there. And then he gets hurt. He misses 3 games. And obviously, like you mentioned, a couple other guys flourish. But he still came back. He still came back and had a solid season. And this is a guy that during the offseason felt like he was being slept on by everyone. And for him to come out and kind of say it publicly a little bit is a big deal, because he's a very quiet, keeps to himself, not boastful, not look at me type of guy. And so he felt that all offseason. He's going to play angry. He's going to play a little pissed off, and I'm looking forward to it. I'm going to go ahead and put it out there on air. How I was about Clyde Edwards-Helaire last year is how I'm going to be about Terrace Marshall this year. I truly feel like he's going to have that type of transformation and be a guy that we're sitting here when it's April 15th and we're doing our NFL draft preview. Terrace Marshall goes in the first round.
And I can understand why he would think people slept on him. Jefferson was a first-round pick. Chase was the Biletnikoff Award winner. It's easy to sleep on the third guy. I have always thought of him as a number one receiver. When he and Chase came out in the same year, they were basically 1 and 1A as far as prospects. There was not a whole lot of.
He was the A part of it.
He really was, and the question mark was that he had missed that senior season, and so you were going back on it. He can play angry, which is great. I'm just saying play healthy is all I'm saying. He's on the field. Right. I'm fine with him.
I think he needs to play angry a little bit more.
Sure.
I think he needed to know how good he was. I honestly felt like he didn't know at times. Like he didn't, and I think it was more because of the injury. So you make a great point. I think can I trust this? And that was coming from because he was never fully healthy his freshman year. He made some plays, but I don't think he was ever fully healthy. And you could see some of that in when he ran. You could see some hesitation a little bit. I think all that's gone. I think all of that's gone now. And I want to see him actually play a little bit more angry. This is a guy, he averaged 15 yards a catch, so he's a guy that can make the big plays. We saw him in the red area, 13 touchdowns, all those type of things. Now his role is going to expand. And in his game, he's not going to be the guy that runs the 9 route and takes the top off the defense. But I can promise you, every route in the route tree he can run it at an elite level. You're talking about your digs, your flags, your post, all these type of things. This is a big body that's going to go get the ball back shoulder. He was so good at it a year ago. So I think I'm excited more because I know he's going to play mad. He's going to play angry. He wants to prove, because at that position, you have to have a little bit of selfishness, a good selfishness. When we were in Atlanta about to play Oklahoma and we're getting ready, I had a conversation with Mickey Joseph, and he said, watch Jefferson tomorrow night. I was like, yeah, we'll watch him all the time. He's one of the best receivers. He said, no, Hess, watch him tomorrow night. He said, he's pissed. He has practiced like it all week. I can tell he is angry, and he's happy for his teammate. He said this. He said he's happy for his teammate that he won the Biletnikoff, but he said nobody's talking about him, and they're going to be talking about him on Sunday morning.
he watches the game last night. He sees what Clyde does. He watches the game on Sunday. Jefferson's going to be in the starting lineup for Minnesota. He saw Chase opt out because he's going to be a very, very high draft pick. And if I'm Terrace Marshall, I'm thinking to myself, there's no reason I can't be in those shoes. There's 6 guys, 7 guys that are starting in the NFL this first weekend that were on last year's team. No reason I can't be one of those guys. All I got to do is go put 10 to 12 games on tape, play the whole season. There's no doubt in my mind that if Terrace Marshall plays all 10 regular season games and whatever postseason games on, or even 90% of them, give him a fluke 1-game miss or something if he turns an ankle, he will be a first-round pick next year. But I think that's the question mark. He's got to put a full season on tape. Otherwise, that's going to follow him around a little bit. The other thing that Marshall talked about, he's got 2 people he's got to work with this year, as important as any. One of them is Myles Brennan, and the other one is Scott Linehan, and he talked about his relationship with both. Myles first.
Man, Myles has been great. Our chemistry with me and him and the receivers, it's been great. We've been clicking in practice. I'm really looking forward to see how well we're going to click in the game. This year's offense is just as fun as last year's offense. I mean, obviously, Scott Linehan, he's a very experienced guy. So he came in, and he's going to get us right. He's been getting us right. So, I mean, I'm looking forward to showing the world, what else we can do.
You talked about that red area stuff and how good Marshall was at that a year ago. Linehan was brought in. One of his points of emphasis is in the red zone. So what might he be able to put in that would fit Terrace Marshall perfectly?
So as we've heard Richard Dixon say this many times, who played for Linehan in Detroit, said he loves to get the big bodies in the game in the red area, right? You might get some extra tight ends. Well, you've got Eric Gilbert, who's going to be one of the best tight ends in the country. And so I would expect him, when you got Racey McMath, when you have a Terrace Marshall, when you have a Gilbert, and you're able to get that size out there on the field, it's a pick your poison, because we've got guys that are taller than your guys, more athletic than your guys. And so I'm excited to see what kind of concepts they can come up with, because they have a tendency to throw the football in the red area in Linehan's tenure when he's been a head coach and when he's been a coordinator as well. I think that LSU's really set up for that, and you've got guys that can high point it, but the back shoulder stuff as well, which they do so well. Terrace Marshall did it so well a year ago. So you've got many, many options down there in the red area for LSU.
Oh, you brought up Eric Gilbert. Doesn't everybody?
Yeah.
I mean, it does. Isn't that like the not the standard, but the required question that you have to ask if you're talking to other players about Eric Gilbert? So they asked Terrace Marshall about Eric Gilbert.
I could say his early impression is his eye candy. I mean, he 6'5", 6'6", just I don't know how many pounds he weigh. I don't want to know, but he's a freak of nature, and I'm very excited to see what he can do on the field and during the season.
They all say that, right?
Yes.
I mean, all of these guys that Terrace Marshall's gonna be a first-round pick. He was the number 1 player in Louisiana. He's like, man, look at that dude.
Terrace Marshall is 6'3", 210.
Look
and he's
at that
saying,
dude.
look at that guy. He's eye candy. He's a freak.
They all say that.
Yeah.
I've never in my life had this kind of, I don't want to say hype, I just want to say this kind of player at tight end.
You're exactly right. That's a great point, because you don't typically get it at that position. And you'll get hype from kids in high school when they're coming out. It's like, wait till he gets on campus. But then it kind of fizzles a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
His started obviously in high school, but once he got on campus, that's when it really picked up. Once you got your eyes on him, once you saw him go out there and run routes, that's the more encouraging part of it. Is it's not just high school Harry coming out and we haven't seen him actually do anything. No, they've seen it. They've seen it throughout workouts. They've seen it in fall camp, and that's the most exciting part of it. And I told you, the 2 guys at the equipment staff, the training staff, anybody you want to say in the building talked about was B.J. Ojolari, and they talked about Eric Gilbert. That's the 2 guys. And who's Ed talk about every time he gets in front of a microphone? Those 2 guys.
I'm trying to think of comps here, and just right off the top of my head, I think the highest rated tight end maybe that LSU's ever recruited would have been David LaFleur. The rating systems weren't as sophisticated then as they are now, but LaFleur was a very, very highly recruited guy, had a good career here, was a first-round pick of the Cowboys. But the hype around LaFleur was nowhere near what the hype has been, the talk has been around Gilbert. I think about some of the national tight ends. I remember when Kellen Winslow the second came out,
right?
And because his dad had was a Hall of Fame career, and he had unbelievable physical gifts. And I think about another guy at the same school is Jeremy Shockey. was
Yeah.
was a huge guy, and they were like, wait till you see what this guy can do. But nothing compared to the lead up on him,
because
on Gilbert.
Even though Marcus Spears played both ways, he was, came here as a tight end, but it was almost like the Devin White situation. Like, yeah, he's coming here as a running back, but we all knew he's going to switch to linebacker.
Yeah, the word got out maybe in the kind of off the record stuff in the media. It's like, yeah, he's going to be a tight end, but wait till Saban talks to him.
Yeah.
I remember another guy like that was Mark Roman. Mark Roman,
Right.
Whose recruitment went past signing date because he wanted to play running back, and Jerry DiNardo kept saying, "Yeah, we're recruiting him as a two-way player. Yeah, he's gonna play some running." So back then, the two-a-days were true two-a-days, and you could go to all of the practices. So we went to the first practice, and true to his word, Jerry DiNardo let Mark Roman play running back for one practice. And after that, Mark Roman was a defensive back, and then Mark Roman was a defensive back for 10 years in the National Football League. So, yeah, Marcus was, we're going to let him play tight end. We're going to let him play basketball too. Remember, he was going to try to play basketball too. And then Nick got to him and explained what defensive ends made in the NFL. And Marcus was a first-round pick and spent 10 years in the NFL.
Russell Shepard going to play quarterback.
Sure.
Yeah, you're going to get your opportunity.
Mm-hmm. And he did for what?
A day?
Maybe.
Ish.
Not much longer than that. Never threw a pass here. Not one.
Which is crazy. Something.
Give me if I was Les Miles, like find something so he can say he didn't spend his entire LSU career here and not throw one pass.
Yeah.
But no, not so much.